Hey, what's going on, everybody out there? This is Jakejames Lugo. Welcome to the channel, and we're gonna be doing a quick unboxing or looking through this new book that I just got. It's FF Dot or Final Fantasy Dot. It's a pixel art book about the Final Fantasy games, most of the Final Fantasy games in the series, not just the older ones. This is done by Dark Horse, as you guys could see here. We love looking at Dark Horse books on the channel. We've looked at a bunch of them, so if you haven't seen those videos yet, there's a whole playlist devoted to gaming books that you guys should check out alongside this one. But let's just go right into this. Of course, Dark Horse always has like these back covers thing. I actually just, every time I get it, I put it inside the actual cover of the book itself. That way, everybody could just check it out, you know, or at least I could check it out as I look through these books and stuff. So we're gonna put that to the side for now. So this whole book is just all about showcasing the pixel art for the entire Final Fantasy series, or at least most of the games, I should say. There's obviously certain games that do not have pixel art for them. There's obviously a big heavy emphasis on Final Fantasy 1 through 6 in here, with some stuff from like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, I believe as well. And I think also all the way up to about 15, with a few games like, you know, here and there missing. No real like spin-offs and stuff like that are just, you know, don't have like pixel art and stuff. But anyway, as you can see here, they actually break down all the different like, you know, little sprites for all the different games or the different characters that you see in various Final Fantasy games. So you got like a full blow up of the pixel art here of the warrior class specifically for Final Fantasy 1. And it just pretty much, again, it has the entire grid that they use in order to make the character sprite. It has the different, poses, you know, and the different types of actions, as well as also the other variant classes. So this is like the better version of the warrior class, which ends up becoming a knight, which it tends to be a little bit stronger depending on how you level up and stuff. And you go through most of the other classes in the game, which is pretty cool, as you could tell. Now I'm going to kind of skip ahead a little bit further. As you guys can see here, you get all the different sprites. The white mage has the white wizard. Then you have the black mage, which is pretty cool. It reminds me of Vivi, or Vivi technically is like a derivative of this. And then the black wizard as well, the black magic wizard. But anyway, you got all these different things. It talks about the movement as far as like the different sprites and the way that the pixel art looks. You got all the different characters, the NPCs, and then it gets into the monsters. A lot of the different monster designs are very cool. There's usually only one type of drawing for them. There's not really, you know, multiple like animations and stuff, especially in the older games. But there's a lot of classic monsters in here that have made appearances throughout the entire series. There goes, what is it? I believe this is Chaos. Yeah, this is Chaos, at least in the way that he appeared in Final Fantasy 1, which has been a big enemy, quote unquote, of most of the Final Fantasy games. And then finally you get into some of the backgrounds, which I think are beautiful. This stuff, again, this is like so old, like over like 20 something plus years old, which is really cool to see how it kind of still holds up in some way. It still actually has a cool appeal. Okay, 1987, look at that. Like, it's already 2020 at the time I'm making this video. Long freaking time, basically. It's pretty long. So anyway, there goes more stuff, the world map, you know, a lot of the layout for like different locations, towns, and things like that. Different like, you know, pixel art for the buildings, the way they look blown up, and all the different, like, I guess you could say like different items, different types of like signs on certain buildings. All this stuff has to be drawn out. Now they do, which I do appreciate, they do go into the remakes of some of these sprites, which these are the 2018 sprites for the Final Fantasy re-release that was on PSP. If you guys never played that, it's basically Final Fantasy 1, but it's the exact same game with some extra content that wasn't included in the North American release and redrawn sprites, which I appreciate. Now, I think this is also part of the iOS version, you know, the PC or iOS tablet mobile version that includes that new artwork, as well as also like all the extra content and stuff. So eventually get into Final Fantasy 2, and we'll kind of like skip ahead a little bit through some of the stuff to show you some of the portraits, including Firion and all the other different characters for Final Fantasy 2. Then we get into the monsters, the Emperor, which is the big baddie of Final Fantasy 2, which is pretty dope. But I want to skip ahead more further to some of the other games, which are the ones I really like. Again, we got Final Fantasy 3, of course, as well. This is Final Fantasy 3 right here. So start getting into the classes. The Onion Knight, by the way, this is the Onion Knight right there. It's pretty cool. But I want to get to Final Fantasy 4 so I can show you guys. There we go. We'll go a little bit further. This is all Final Fantasy 3 stuff. So yeah, this is all more Final Fantasy 3. And then finally we get to Final Fantasy 4, which I believe, yeah, that's right about here. So Final Fantasy 4 here, Cecil in his Paladin and Dark Knight form, which is cool. We get all the different versions. Now, this is the 2018 version that they're showing. But they do have the original sprites, as you can see, like along the side here, even though these are like the more redrawn sprites. And then also all the other characters, Kane, Rosa, everybody else included in the cast. This looks great. The portraits look great. All this stuff looks pretty awesome. I want to get to some of the other stuff because, again, it looks much more cooler when you get to the bigger things. Golbez, one of the big baddies, Zeramos. And again, this is when Cecil turns into a paladin. They got the full sprite animation, I guess you could say. And also the different locations, certain big areas, certain big moments. Spoiler alert. You know, the game's just so old that you guys gotta, be careful. Zeramos battle. Now, one thing that they don't include in here is the after years, I believe. The Four Fiends, which is pretty good. I love the sprite work, especially when you're in battle and you see the Four Fiends like this. They just look fantastic. They look so damn awesome. Here's some of the other stuff here as well. Okay, some extra scenes. Now we get into the monsters. And then we start getting into Final Fantasy V. Yeah, this is still Final Fantasy IV. Now we get to Final Fantasy V, which is Bart's, or Butts, as he's normally called. And then you get all the different job classes for all the characters. I never really played 5, but one day maybe I'll go back to it and actually play it, see what it is. There's X-Death, or at least his final form of X-Death. And I love, like, here's the big bridge, which is a big location in Final Fantasy V, like just the complete sprite work of it. It looks gorgeous. And again, seeing it like this in this book form is awesome. So I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit more, because I know we're going a little bit long here. We got also Final Fantasy VI. You can't talk about sprite work without mentioning Final Fantasy VI. Again, just looks amazing. I'm trying to think, okay, there goes Kefka. And I know they have one where it's like an actual shot. That's the beginning of the game. Then they have the Ghost Train. Everybody loves slamming the Ghost Train. And it's cool because they have the carts right here, but then they have the repeated ones for the long stuff about the Ghost Train there. And then all the different scenes. A lot of different stuff going on here. And eventually when we get to the point with Kefka, like his final form and just his big sprite form that just looks awesome. Like right here. This looks amazing. This just looks really freaking cool, man. And that's what you see. That's the type of sprite that you see when you're playing the game. So now let's go a little bit further ahead. We're getting towards the end of the book where they start showcasing more modern Final Fantasy games. However, these are sprite work versions of these characters. So this is Final Fantasy VII, so you got Cloud, Tifa, Aerith, Barret, Red 13, and everybody else here, but in sprite form. Like, this was used in, like, various mobile games and, like, promotional material and stuff like that. Then you got the same thing with Final Fantasy VIII, Squall, Renoa, Quintus, Cypher, Laguna, Ultimisia, whole bunch of characters. Then you get into Final Fantasy IX, same thing, we got Zidane, Vivi, everybody else here. These characters, again, the one thing I will say, that Final Fantasy respects its legacy, like, a lot. And it's cool to see stuff like this, especially for games that were not done in pixel art. They were done in 3D models, or with 3D models in 3D environments. But they can still go back to this pixel art style and really kind of, give these characters some personality in that type of style. So yeah, they do have Final Fantasy XI here. We got Shentoto and everybody else from Final Fantasy XI. Then we get into 12. Then obviously 13. Even though I'm not a huge fan of 13, I do appreciate this stuff. Then this is 14, right? Yeah, this is A Realm Reborn, Final Fantasy 14. They did the same thing. And then we get into Final Fantasy 15, which is the 4 main bros of everybody here, Noctis and crew. And then finally, one thing I do like is that they have an interview with Kazuko Shibuya, who did most of the pixel artwork for most of the older Final Fantasy games. They really kind of go in depth and talk about a lot of stuff about the development of Final Fantasy and most of the different games back then for the Famicom, Super Famicom, etc. They even show a little bit of artwork. I wish they included that type of stuff. That actual, artwork that is just, the inspiration for a lot of these characters, especially the Amano artwork. I wish that they include that in here, but they'd have other books solely devoted to that. So as far as a book devoted to pixel art, I appreciate this. I think it's cool. I think it's good. It focuses on the one thing that is really, again, the big subject matter, and I think it's pretty cool overall. So if you're into this type of stuff and you just love collecting anything related to Final Fantasy and you just love this type of artwork, again, I can recommend this. I think it's pretty good. I think you would get a lot out of it. We'll just chill here on Final Fantasy IV, because my favorite probably out of the older Final Fantasies is probably Final Fantasy IV, but that's a story for another time. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little unboxing or this look at the Final Fantasy artwork book. Again, this is done or released by Dark Horse Comics. You can get it on Amazon for pretty cheap, with roughly about maybe less than $20, depending on where you find it, or you can find it in Barnes & Noble or anywhere else. But definitely check it out whenever you guys get a chance. It's a pretty awesome book, collectible, a coffee table book if you guys collect that type of stuff. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you can as well. Like the video, of course, and I will see you guys again real soon. Peace out, and stay epic, everybody. Thanks for watching this video, everyone. Go ahead and click the boxes on the side to see more videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to go visit my Patreon page for exclusive gaming content that I know you'll really love. Hope you have a chill day. Peace out, and stay epic, everybody.